Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Antonio's Movie Reviews. This is my 6th movie review, and if you haven't subscribed, please take the time to do so now. Fear is a 1996 American psychological thriller film that was directed by James Foley and written by Christopher Crowe. Stars Mark Wahlberg, Reese Witherspoon, William Petersen. Reese Witherspoon was 16 years old at the time of this movie's making. They live in the suburbs of Seattle. Her father, Steven, his new wife, Laura, and Laura's son, Toby, are all living in a, looks like, seemingly perfect, wealthy household where everything is provided for them very well. The dog is even happy, and they're in Seattle, as I said before. Everybody's off to work. Nicole's off to school.
The kid Healy decided he had to stare at my boobs for 10 minutes before he gave me an extension.
They decide to go to a bar for lunch where she meets David.
La la.
Mark Wahlberg wasn't even Mark Wahlberg at the time of this filming. He was really Marky Mark. His music is portrayed a lot throughout the film. He was probably fresh off his Calvin Klein modeling deal too. It looks like they both end up getting an invitation to the same party.
There should be something going on down there. I told you I gotta do this family thing. Oh, ready to see James Taylor again?
When did you ever see a James Taylor? Come on, not even a nice schmoozy conference call, please?
They're unable to go to the James Taylor concert, so Nicole calls Margo so that they can go to the party. She sees the guy, right? After a fight breaks out at the bar, David takes Nicole to the rooftop to escape the fight, so he probably gets points by being very protective at this point. Notice that Margo is already going home with Logan. Nicole eventually jumps off the ladder, and we see her and David ride off into a nice little concave, it looks like, where we realize sort of like the first bad side of David when he turns her watch back.
All the time in the world.
Her father sure won't be happy about that. That's like the first sign of disrespect. He should have taken that curfew a little bit more seriously.
Well, the least you could have done was call, Nicole. I was sitting here for 2 hours.
The family has their own security guard on the property. His name is Larry.
Is he a good guy?
Let's get to his car. You'd appreciate that.
Well, that's a start. I want you to apologize to Laura.
Yeah. I'll apologize to her when she apologizes.
So obviously her father isn't too mad as of yet. Meanwhile, back at school, it looks like David is picking Nicole up today in his Corvair, the legendary Chevy that used to blow up. Gary sees them. They go off to the bar. Looks like they're at Largo again. I'm not exactly sure, but Margo and Logan are in the back corner. Looks like David's ready to take it to the next level and meet the family.
Nicole?
Yeah?
I want to meet your family.
Really?
Pleasure to meet you, sir.
Same here, David.
Hey, Toby, right? These guys' roots are really sensitive.
Learned a lot during your summer, didn't you?
This scene is kind of provocative. They're on their way to the carnival, and it seems that Margo is, I'm not sure if she's being distracting or if she's, I don't know, just trying to enable David to do what he did by moving his clock back yet again.
Pleasure to meet you, Mr. Walker. Take care.
No.
At the carnival, it looks like everything's starting off hot and heavy. Like David's ready to move to that next level, so they get on a roller coaster and things are just going further and further and further until finally, I think that they're finally to a different level. I mean, everybody knows this scene if you've seen the movie. Like at home.
What are you talking about? The last big hour. What? Shit!
David wins Nicole a peace pipe, which is going to come in handy later. She looks over and sees Logan pointing at her creepily while molesting her friend.
That's awful sick Kaiser on you. Ooh, I'm shaking.
Try and have a nice time, Nick.
Hello?
David?
Nicole, how are you?
She gave him too much trust in giving him that key code to the door. He walks in, probably takes a bunch of stuff for his little shrine that he has, and they hook up.
Are we talking the L word here?
I don't know.
David doesn't like this hug that Gary gives her.
Go away!
She notices she has a black eye the next day, and Laura gives her a makeup lesson. Looks like it's fixed their relationship a little bit. Her dad didn't seem to notice, at least not at first anyway. It looks like David is snuck into Nicole's school. She further sees her and Gary talking, and that probably just makes him more and more irate. She writes Nicole a note and asks her to meet him at Largo. She apparently doesn't want to meet him because she never shows up, which leaves him in pretty much despair. It looks like his buddies are coming into his room, who he lives with, and trying to, get a rise out of him, but he's not interested in anything. But Nicole sends her some flowers, which she promptly throws away. So her stepmom, Laura, is wondering why she would throw those flowers away, so she finally breaks the news to her, which makes her dad come into the room, and he's definitely not wanting to hear that. He looks down and he sees the worst thing he could possibly see.
You just say it. This is all about David.
There's something wrong with him.
But your problem with David, not mine.
He's not a good guy.
Looks like she's contemplating getting back together with him. She goes back out to the trash can to see exactly what was in the rose box, and she finds that picture.
I don't know. Nicole, do yourself a favor and don't think so much. It gives you premature wrinkles.
At Margo's, the guys pop up and she sees David is there, and she's not excited to see him at all.
I need you to know that it came from someplace good. It came from me feeling like I'd do anything to protect you.
She fell for it, and eventually he ends up over to the house for looks like a pool party.
We're taking advantage? You want to jump in?
What's he doing here?
Dad is definitely not happy about seeing David at his house. He decides he's going to do a little bit of a background check on David.
Since then, no one knows. He's got no family, no address, no work record, nothing.
All right, so the guy's embarrassed about being an orphan.
He's not having it anymore. He decides he's going to go and meet David personally and tell him that he's not going to be seeing Nicole anymore.
Mr. Walker,
You got a minute? I need to talk to you. David, I don't want to beat around the bush. I came to tell you that you're going to stop seeing Nicole.
I know about things coming apart at work. Maybe you fucking lost it in that department.
Your ass will come out your fucking mouth. You got that, my friend?
The master manipulator beats himself up in order to make Nicole think that her father really did some damage to him during that talk.
Nicole!
Kiss me to show me you forgive me.
Nicole! Fine, I'll call a lawyer.
As we can see, things between Steven and David are just getting increasingly worse. She has run off now. He tried to call the police in terms of his daughter being kidnapped, as he called it, but they told him to get a lawyer. She decides she really doesn't want to go back home, so what she does is take the car and drive over to David's.
She's mine. You want me?
After seeing David pursue Margo that way, she is definitely done with him after all of that. She feels regret, remorse, it looks like guilt. She goes home, looks at her father, and thinks about how worried he must have been, and she writes him a note. Looks like the same writing from that note that Mark Wahlberg wrote, but you know, it's 1996.
You're eating a zombie trip.
Thanks. I'm just not hungry.
Guess who?
Touch me.
After taking that beating, Gary had some nerve to stand up to David like that.
Who told you? Did David tell you?
Forget it. Doesn't matter.
Please don't do this. I need you. You're my only friend!
Margo doesn't know how Nicole found out about what happened, but David pursues her on the street in what looks like a high-speed chase.
Oh my God,
This guy is obviously gone off the map. It looks like he's like a totally different person at this point.
What the fuck do you think you're doing?
please leave me.
What the fuck did you say to her?
Nothing, I swear, David, I didn't tell.
He shows up to Nicole's house. Her father slams the door in his face. Makes a tattoo out of, it looks like an ink pen cartridge, and also scratching the words Nicole Forever into his chest. He's stalking Nicole at school now, and he sees she continuously hugs Gary all the time, which that's probably about the third or fourth hug in the movie by them, but he even knows her parents, and he's off to walk home.
Hey, Gary. David. Gary, did you know I grew up in a lot of different places?
This was like a striking scene in the movie. I guess that's why some people called it the fatal attraction for teens. When this movie first came out, they really didn't like, I mean, me personally, I don't condone abusive relationships at all. So, I mean, I totally understand why the critics had a lot to say about this movie. At this point, he starts tormenting her dad. He messed up the Mustang, and he left that note that was just ridiculous to leave to someone's parent. I still would never picture that. He sees her at the mall, and he goes into the bathroom where he saw her walk to. He goes in there, and he tells her basically that she's never going to leave him. They're going to be together forever, and that he has something with her by taking her virginity, I guess, that she can't ever have with anyone else. After Steven's Mustang gets ruined, he goes over to the house because he knows David did it by that note. And he actually finds out where he lives, goes into his room, and he finds some weird shrine where a picture has been redone to put David's picture in place of her father's. He's redone a bracelet that said Daddy's girl and a David's girl. And the guys are on their way home to see what has happened. And when they see what has happened, they immediately wonder who did it. Basically, by the shrine being ruined. David knows that it must have been her father because no one else would desecrate that scene to that degree.
Yeah, who? Yeah, let's pay the dude a fucking visit then.
Alright.
Here is when things begin to get out of control. David gives Logan directions to the house. He tells him, like, quickly that Nicole isn't part of this game. They immediately make out a plan in order to get eye for an eye, I guess. There's a knock at the door. It's Margo, the last person that Nicole probably wants to see right now.
They found his body in the woods by school.
She tells him that Gary has been killed, and at the same time, Kaiser, the family dog, has been lured out.
That's a good boy.
Here you'll come.
There's no siren.
David's got the code.
The iconic "let me in the house" scene. I knew that code would come back to bite her in the end. At this point, everyone's pretty much terrorizing the family.
My house, the fuck up yours!
That's when Laura finds out that Steven actually messed up Logan's house, and that's what this was all about. Security guard makes a phone call. The phones are disconnected.
It's Larry.
It's gonna be alright.
So fast. Security guard himself is a bit suspicious, so he pats David down where he is in an ambush all of a sudden. Comes out on top though. At least for a minute anyway. The next thing you know, the dumbest guy of the crew ends up shooting the security guard. Now they have leverage to get inside the house.
We're coming in. You just gotta decide whether he's coming with us, and fast.
David talks Laura into letting him in the house, or else Stephen may end up dying. So once they're inside the house, they proceed to tie up the parents, and Logan goes upstairs and starts bothering the girls. Looks like Toby is snuck out of the house into the Jeep where there's a car phone. Logan's doing exactly what David told him not to do, which will come back to haunt him in the end. All of a sudden, the other guy who just shot the cop sees Toby in the vehicle, and he looks like he's gonna shoot him. So Toby, being as smart as he is, runs the guy over. He's able to call 911 on the car phone, and everything is all set. After that, he sneaks inside the house, and it looks like he sees his mom. She's handcuffed, so he knows that he needs to go and get the handcuff keys from the deceased security guard. Ojo will come back to haunt him in the end. David suggests that they shoot her father so that they can be together forever. Meanwhile, Laura comes up and uncuffs the father so that he can attack David. That peace pipe which David won for her at the carnival was eventually stabbed into his back. The struggle ensues before, finally, bye-bye. Thank you everyone for joining me today for 1996 Fear. Please subscribe and don't forget to tune in for the next video. Thanks. Thank you for joining us for Antonio's Movie Reviews.